Hi, my name is Nathan. Everything I say and do is just as stupid as it is crazy. Such as watching every movie based on a DC Comics property so I can rank them for my own enjoyment. Anyway, enough about me, let's get to it.
So, before anyone does anything embarrassing...
First, one film was disqualified. Teen Titans Go See Space Jam, as, outside of a brief opening, it's only just Space Jam with extra steps. The government is stealing teenagers to give them superpowers and then kill them when they try to use said superpowers to break out.
Bunch of whiz kids, you're not very smart.
There's one thing worse than a bad movie, and that's a boring one.
Ow! I trust the great Caesar isn't boring you. Or perhaps it's just me.
And this isn't just boring, it's a slow train ride across a desert of melancholy and poor decision-making. This is a film with essentially no plot. Or at least a plot so slow that by the time anything does move in the story, the entirety of existence has been put to sleep by the rest of the film. It doesn't help that every line in the film is said with the same inflection that you would have trying to talk to a stranger on an elevator.
Kyle, you are such a total madman. I'll be there in a second. I'll be right with you, baby.
Not that the dialogue is well written by any means, and all the characters are basically as generic as they come. This movie could have been something too, as I've heard the comic series is actually pretty good, but instead all we're left with is this incredibly phoned in visual ambient we have here. Most bad movies probably could have been saved in editing. At the same time, bad editing can ruin what is otherwise a decent film. Not to say there's anything decent about this movie, but it's brought down to new lows because of the absolutely terrible editing. For one thing, whoever did it seems to have never heard of any other transitions other than jump cuts. Hey, we're thinking of having a part where this character dies and we want them to seem like time has passed, maybe a slow fade out or something. I know, how about a jump cut? Okay, well later there's this part when she falls asleep and then wakes up in the morning. Maybe something cool like a classic Star Wars white? No, you don't want that. Trust me, you want a jump cut. Okay. Well, there's this fight scene that we thought maybe you could punch up a little. What do you think? Well, your problem is that you need more jump cuts. You can't have a fight scene that doesn't have an actual chance to giving someone a seizure. I was legitimately surprised when they used a crossfade about halfway through the film. It literally makes it hard to watch because these quick cuts happen so fast and so often. It's like I can't get my brain to slow down enough to absorb anything long enough to understand the slightest of what's happening on screen. However, if this film actually had some halfway decent editing, you'd still have a bad story with horrible dialogue that has absolutely nothing to do with the title character from the comics. But the acting, which isn't good either, but is decent enough that it would have been put up a couple of ranks at least. But the editing propels this movie perpetually downward from the very start of the film. Okay, bad movies are bad, but they at least make you feel something.
True, she's a real homebody, but you can't help who you fall in love with. Ooh.
Even if that's just rage for having to watch such a terrible film. But a boring film is something else.
Bruce, I'm talking to you.
Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, Andy. My mind was on something else.
Like what?
Oh, just,
So yeah, just don't make a boring film. Mask of the Phantasm is a murder mystery with an incredibly obvious answer. It's one I guessed right away, and it took the driving force right out of the film. It's this lady, by the way, the only person they made up for this movie, and truthfully, I would have been happier if she had nothing to do with the rest of the story and was actually the Penguin or something like that. At least that would have kept us guessing.
I'm impressed, lady. You're harder to kill than a cockroach on steroids.
But the problem is, they also make the entire story focus on her as the woman that Bruce let get away. Anyway, a few more complaints about this film. Batman doesn't feel like Batman. The flashbacks are boring, and flashbacks are meaningless drivel meant to eat up runtime in most things anyway. There's almost no action. Joker shows up, and he doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the plot.
Oh, you devil.
The only thing really keeping this from being lower is that it at least makes these PG-rated slasher flick death scenes pretty good. But this film does almost nothing to emulate the characters or the 90s TV show that it's based on. Speaking of train wrecks, had I just been speaking about them, Batman and Robin is total crap, but everyone in it is acting like it isn't.
Look, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Don't go all protective on me. It's not gonna happen
You
again.
were reckless, and you almost got killed by Freeze tonight.
That's part of the problem, actually. Everyone who was delivering their lines like Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, the only person in the film who seems to know how to appropriately ham it up,
Plant toxins had a rather unique effect on me.
then we'd have a pretty good bad movie. Or at least an excessively campy one in the style of the Adam West and Burt Ward Batman and Robin of the 1960s. Instead, with everyone acting like they're starring in the next Steven Spielberg drama, nothing ever quite finds the right tone to reach the level of campiness necessary to enjoy it. Oh, except Uma Thurman, like I said. She knows exactly what she's doing, and that's overacting.
As I told Lady Freeze when I pulled her plug, this is a one-woman show.
Her performance also makes this film worth watching, but she also has a fair share of bad moments. Like when she shows up to the auction dressed in a full-body gorilla costume and dances like it's sexy to dance in a full-body gorilla costume. It's one of those scenes that just makes you feel embarrassed for the movie itself, but this is basically a full movie of these moments. Anyway, actors get most of the brunt for a bad film. But one thing people forget is that it all starts as a script first. An easily changeable screenplay before you even start filming stuff on this or editing for something like that. Just remember, you can't make a good movie with a bad script. Anyway, as an actual compliment, some of the action in this movie, though excessively cartoony, is actually pretty good, just as long as it doesn't involve ice skates. I also kind of like this very short conversation when Batgirl joins the dynamic duo.
I found the Batcave.
We gotta get those locks changed.
She knows who we are.
Guess we'll just have to kill her.
Yep, we'll kill her later. We have work to do.
There's something worse than a bad mystery, at least in the mystery genre, and that's one that the solution to the mystery doesn't actually matter.
Who, Penguin? Who's the big bad boogeyman?
Such as this film that asks the question, who is the Batwoman? Along with my follow-up question, who cares? Also, their solution to adding a new character we've never seen before, making the solution super obvious like in Mask of the Phantasm, is instead to add 3 characters we've never seen before to keep us guessing.
9 years ago, arsonists. They burned my parents' shop.
I guess I should be going then. We're getting dangerously close to a conversation.
I can't tell you how cool it is to be in an R&D company that takes young women seriously.
But instead, kind of just makes me care even less about what the solution actually is. And it's even worse because instead of one solution, it's all 3.
You sure you're gonna be all right?
Don't worry, I'll be back.
All 3 women are the Batwoman. It's dumb and I hate it. These aren't people that mean anything, and they won't show up ever again either way. Also, why is everyone trying to shack up Barbara Gordon with Batman?
I have no idea who she is.
'Cause if you had, I'd be really upset. 'Cause I thought you and I were, you know.